Oh my God, Katie's on my podcast. I don't even know what to do with myself. You are like the epitome, the inspiration to all women podcasters.
Okay.
Spill. How do we drive profit with purpose? You are so intentional. You are so purposeful. But first we have to start with one piece.
Yeah.
How do you have a podcast and then abandon everything? Like, how do you have the courage? How do you have the courage to actually say, no, you know what? I know I've got this level of success and like, I'm just not going to do that anymore. What's that like?
It was very scary, and I have a very low tolerance for unhappiness. So I'm not willing to sit with things for too long if I know that that's not where I'm supposed to be. And I feel like it's a muscle that I have flexed really my entire life. But, you know, I can remember making some really big adult decisions at 18 years old that were very life-changing, and having parents who encouraged me to make those decisions on my own. And so I feel like I've had a lot of practice flexing that muscle of like, should I go here or should I do this? And either road will completely change my life in some way. And I can't say that I've always, quote unquote, chosen correctly, but I've always been able to figure things out. And because of that, I have realized like there is no such thing called, you know, I've either chosen a winning road or a losing road. It's always just what am I choosing in this moment? What feels right? And does it end up working out or does it not? Now I have to adjust and shift and pivot. And so I feel like, specifically in the example you're talking about, you know, leaving Biz Women Rock and really shifting into Women's Meditation Network. I mean, the decision happened in a moment. Like I knew that that's what I was going to do. But the reality of that was that it took me about 1.5 years of a process to do that. So I didn't completely shut one off and then go in full force in one. Maybe that would have been easier in some way, but it was very much like I had the time to process not only the internal emotion of what that would be to, you know, say goodbye to this business that was successful and that was very rooted. It had roots. And so there was so much emotion attached to that. And then, you know, shifting into this brand new baby that was just an idea that didn't have any sort of like, you know, success, you know, prior to it. And so I feel like it was that 1.5 years was the practicing of actually allowing that decision that I knew in a heartbeat, I was allowed to sort of process it over that time.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think we need to give ourselves permission that we can actually make a decision and then be allowed to transition.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important lesson for almost any audience, right? The hardest part, one of my mentors told me, the hardest part about actually making a decision is actually keeping it. So I applaud you for making a decision that didn't feel right or seem right for you in an instant and actually seeing it all the way through.
Well, no, like I knew it was the right decision, but the living it out was very scary.
Sure.
And so it's that, like it was, you know, it was a constant rechecking in with it. Okay, am I on the right path? Like I feel like I know it's the right decision, but like it's terrifying. It's all new. So, okay, 2 months later, I have my first episode on this brand new thing. Okay, however many months later, cool. I'm still managing both. I'm building this one and managing this community here. Like, how does that feel? So it's just and with any decision and sort of the living out of it, it's like this willingness to be in the gunk of it. And I even knew back then, like there's going to be a moment that you're past all of this. And I've sort of threaded the needle, if you will, you know, that business, Women's Meditation Network was, you know, in the red for a long time. Not only was it not really making a lot of money, but it was sucking money out of me personally because I was investing in it. And so I knew that there would be a moment where, no, this is going to flip. Chris would constantly remind me of that. And so that willingness to sit in the ugliness of it all or the imperfection of it all, which is really all of life. I mean, and that's definitely all of business. It's always messy, right? But I feel like that's part of it. Like I'm willing to make the decision. people on the outside see that as so courageous, and I don't see that at all. I just see that as any one of us who owns a business, if we said, oh, go and have your job for 40 hours a week, like none of us would do it, because if it's not something that fulfills us, because we know we're meant to be here, so we will deal with it. And that's not even part of it. And that's how I felt about that decision. That's not me. I'm not supposed to be there. Why in the world would I stay? I have to move forward. I have to evolve. That's what I'm here to do.
So living in the uncomfortable, what a strong lesson for everyone. I even myself, I often daily live in the uncomfortable, right? We have to make difficult decisions with the good information that we believe that we have, and we just have to keep forging forward. And I respect and admire your tenacity to wrestle the uncertainty and the risk of what that looks like. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these Lego blocks, right? These building blocks of, I'm a writer. I'm not a meditation guru. What's that?
Right.
You're you, inspiring so many other women with the things that you write in a meditation network.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me. How did that really evolve one brick at a time?
I don't think that I really leaned into that. I know I've always been a writer. I know I've always wanted to write. I know that that's always been sort of the main mode of communication that I am here to do, which I always found really ironic. Like, if I know that, why am I podcasting? Like, why am I doing this? I really just, I want to get my words out there. But so the first brick was really just knowing, like, I'm going to do meditations, not because I wanted to write, but because I wanted to give the gift of meditation to other women. And I wanted to do it in my own unique way. I didn't deliberately not want to be like everyone out there, but I think just naturally I'm not, and I'm not the person that you typically look at that looks or sounds like a meditation person. And so I think I just went into it and writing those scripts initially very much in the mode of I'm just sort of saying what I want to say. I want to say and then speak what I would want to hear in this moment of anxiety, or that moment of stress, or this moment of excitement about life, or dreaming into what could be. What words do I want to hear in those moments? So that's how I started. And then, the process of then becoming and evolving into a writer in this space has been really fun. And there have been moments, I have taken classes, master classes for songwriting, actually, not so long ago, because I knew I wanted to get better at writing. I wanted to get better, not at meditation writing, not at, book writing. I wanted to get better at writing the kind of lyrics, really, that had the same impact as song lyrics. Because
Yep.
If you told me your favorite song, you could probably tell me the exact lyrics. You could tell me where you were the first time you heard that song, or what that song really means to you. And that's the level of impact I want my writing to have. And because I am packaging that as a meditation, I have a phenomenal, sound engineer as a producer. And so he and I are sort of co-creating these little pieces of art that end up being this experience in this meditation. So it really was just this practice of just writing over and over again, learning the art of writing a meditation, which is very different than just writing a poem sometimes. And so, there's breathing times, there's when you're saying things. I mean, there's a lot of weird technical stuff to it. So it just over time, it was the practice of the writing, the practice of the speaking. That was sort of a thing in and of itself. I didn't really love my voice when I first got on the mic doing meditations. My first meditations I listen to now, I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible. Those sound so bad. So it's just been that practice and the building on, and then finally really coming into this identity, going, I'm a writer. I have created this weird little space for me to write my poems. I never would have considered myself a poet, but I've created this really cute, unique way for me to write and express myself through writing and have that really cathartic writing experience, and then be able to share that and have created something that's universally received. And I think just the more I have done it, the more I take ownership over it, the more I like experimenting on let's try this. Let's see if I can be good at this. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's definitely been that building block of, let me try something, let me get better at it, let me practice it.
How did you learn to build that muscle? Who were you listening to? How were they communicating? And how were inspired to actually evolve? I think that would be the best way I could try to jumble all that in one sentence.
I think that's just our natural states, honestly. I think we're wired to, we do evolve, right? So I feel like that's also just deeply embedded in my personality. I'm constantly wanting more, not more for the sake of more. Like I'm the person who, like, there's no such thing called retirement for me, where I'm just sitting around and hanging out in front of the TV. Like, I am somebody who is hungry to what's the quote, suck the marrow of life. I want to have experiences. I want to become better. I want to know how to become better. I'm constantly, reading new stuff on how to be a better parent, how to, whatever it is, like how to better run a company, all of those things. So I feel like I'm a student constantly just trying to do that. And then I think that I've had an upbringing. I was an athlete growing up my whole life. So I feel like there's this athletic tenacity that I have gained, and resilience that is very much just a part of my DNA at this point. Like, there's no such thing called I'll stop when I'm tired. I'll stop when I'm finished, and then I will probably do more to make it even better.
Wow. I'm honestly a little tongue-tied and a little speechless, because what you represent is really what we aspire to. Lean into the uncomfortable, the muck, the yuck, so that we can consistently evolve. Let's turn to a little bit about, how do we monetize this? Mm-hmm. How do you create an income that is sustainable? You talked about today, really employing your sister, and that was such a vulnerable, beautiful moment to share. Probably such a proud moment for you, that you can contribute to take care of her in a very special relationship, clearly, that the two of you have, based on the belief system, based on who she is and what you see in her and what she's capable of doing, and making that investment, and then being super proud to contribute and support that family.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how you run your business in that way, and then we'll, I guess, talk about how we monetize it. So yeah. I'm sure...
Very intentionally. I was very clear at the beginning of this that this is a business. That has given me a little bit of a leg up in my particular space, in my particular niche, because generally speaking, the meditation niche is, not filled with people with a business background. And so I knew that I had an edge in that. From day one, my question was, okay, well, how is this making money? And how is it going to make a lot of money? And how is it going to be abundant and be prosperous for everyone who touches it? How can we do that? So it was scary at first, because the old kind of podcast and business model I had was one that was very high touch, high ticket. So I could have 20 clients, but each of them paying between $5,000 and $25,000 a year, like that settles me for a while. Like, I'm good. And there's definitely work to go around doing that. So that it was definitely a different business model. This one, because I didn't want the high touch, high ticket item, I was very conscious about not wanting that, because that is a lot of energy. It's not a bad business model at all. I had it, I loved it, but that wasn't what I was wanting. So I knew that it was going to take a very more traditional podcast media company business model, lots of high numbers, your very typical industry CPM. And so what does that look like? I didn't want to have all these in live programs. I didn't want to have like how to meditate for $497. And I just didn't want any of that. And so that was really scary, because when you're talking about that model, it takes some big numbers to actually make good profit. And so with that, I knew that the marketing had to be on point. And that's actually really when I leaned into Chris and finally said, I need help, because he's a marketing genius and I'm somebody who's sort of, I'm good. I'm absolutely not great. And he is 1,000 times better than great. So, and so I really leaned into his marketing advice on growing and growing intentionally. And so every decision we make about growth is, sort of sidestepping it's constantly talking about organic growth and paid growth, right? I was very clear, like when I first started this, I was pregnant with my second kid. So within the first year and a half of this podcast, I had a total infant and a toddler. So I wanted nothing to do with my time being on social media. I didn't want to do the time dollar exchange. That was not my gig. So I was like, I will pay whatever money to go get my podcast out there. And it first started, so we're talking paid ads. So it first started with, $75 to put an ad out there that would bring listeners in. And that eventually got bigger and bigger, and now has about 20% of our budget is spent on any sort of like our marketing budget, right? I say that because then in turn, what I have built, the system that I have built is very simple. When people listen to my podcast and there's a download, I get paid from advertising companies, right? It's that basic. That is probably 80% of my revenue. And so it's literally that game. How do I grow more listeners so that I get paid more ads? Okay. So that's pretty simplistic, but there's a big, very intentional marketing plan behind that. And then I was also really very intentional and very conscious about the fact that my meditation itself, that MP3 file, is actually my product. So how can I make sure it's evergreen? And how can I then, where else can I put it that people will want it and buy it that are outside of podcasting? So what I do is I take the individual meditation and then also bundle it up with within like an album, if you will. So like, like a self-love meditation bundle, like basically like a themed type of a bundle. And I'll put those out there, and those, those make money. Those I get aggregated across all the different, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, whatever have you. So that's another revenue generator. And then I partner with a couple different meditation apps. So kind of in my industry. Mm-hmm. And I'm not unique in this. They do this with a lot of people who do meditations. I can show up as a coach, a quote unquote coach, and I provide my meditations, and I get paid on how many people listen to those. So, and that's a good chunk of my revenue as well. So, and those are just a couple of the ways. And we haven't honestly really even kind of like opened the floodgates yet on what's possible.
Has sponsorship played any role in?
Yeah. So like I said, like advertising and sponsorship take up about 80% of our revenue, and that gets put into two different categories. So I have the technology called dynamic ad insertion, which basically allows, if you imagine one spot, like one advertising spot, that spot, instead of it like being baked into the actual MP3 file, the actual, meditation, it sits on its own, and I can change out what is in that spot in any given moment. And so, using that technology, I have two types of ads. I have host-read ads, which is what we kind of know in the industry. And those are, Talkspace is an advertiser of mine right now. And so I'll talk about how amazing Talkspace is, and, how it's so great to have easy and quick access to a licensed therapist, blah, 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 all that good stuff. And then I can put that ad in front of whichever show for a certain amount of time, right? Or a certain amount of impressions. So that's one. And then the other one is what we call programmatic ads. And so those are ads. If you go to YouTube, actually, if you turn on your TV, go to YouTube, these are the ads that you hear, right? It's not my voice. It's, an advertisement for Toyota, and those get placed right there. So basically what I do is I turn those on. I have less control over those ads. Basically, I'm not approving every single ad that wants to come in there. I'm just saying I don't want these categories, and then boom, they sort of like get filled in that spot. And so those are the bulk of the revenue that comes in, is being able to do programmatic ads and then host-read ads.
What would you tell your younger self?
There's no such thing called falling flat on my ass. Like, there's just no such thing. I have too many people around me who will. One of the interesting things that I do anytime I'm in like a big decision making, like there's a big life decision that needs to happen, I will always go down the path, like very specifically, I'll go down the path of like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like to the point of like, okay, then I can't pay my mortgage. And then how many months would I have before they kick me out, right? And then like I will literally go down that path, because what I inevitably get to every single time is, oh my God, I have people around me who would invite me into their home, let my family eat at their table for as long as I needed. My own family, of course, would do that. I could go back. I could take my family and live with my mom and dad. They would take care of it. Like, I'm not going to be on the streets. Maybe I'll be embarrassed because maybe it would be my ego that is more broken than anything else. But like, I'm okay. My kids are going to be okay. So when I get there, I understand that there's no other option than to fly, right? You've heard that thing of like, once you jump off a cliff, you just have to trust that somewhere on the way down, you're going to grow wings. And so I feel like I would tell my younger self that, like, you're already okay. Don't stress so much.
Oh, I'm gonna make you a post about that. I'm gonna push you off the cliff because somewhere down the line you're going to have wings. I feel like I do
there's
that
a quote
to my.
there.
There's a quote somewhere.
I mean,
there.
that's not mine. Like I don't care. I'm horribly quoting somebody else.
It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. But that's an incredible lesson to be given to every human, women especially, because we don't believe we could grow wings, but humans alike. Yeah, we got to push you off the cliff.
Yeah,
you're gonna grow wings.
Yeah, you will.
What an inspiration to be able to take a passion, a purpose, to be able to monetize it for the good of multiple families and multiple, I would say, people inside your organization, and to be able to actually connect with women all over the globe in a way that is so unique and so special and so you. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was really special, and what an honor to sit down with someone who influences so many in such a deep way. Thanks for being here. If you're a leader or aspiring leader and want to uncover secrets about the purpose-driven world we live in so you can unlock purpose and profit, subscribe to this podcast right now.